Welcome to the official audio recording of Inspector Spector and the Case of the Deadly Death. I am the author. Now, I am also riddled with anxiety about this, so I'm going to be taking a lot of breaths. Now, that's the only one I'm not going to edit out, just so that you can get the gist. I'm going to take a lot of breaths, just like that. I'm also going to take lots of swigs of my loud water, so you're going to see a lot of jump cuts. Kind of like that one, which can cause for some mild continuity errors, Sometimes you'll see something, and then it just doesn't really mix up with your brain as to what exactly you just saw. So, sometimes it doesn't matter, Sometimes it just doesn't matter. So you're going to see some continuity errors. What matters is the audio. Because, like it or not, this is just what it is, man. And that's what it's going to be. I've made a lot of work for myself, only in this introduction. Very fun for me. There's not going to be any crazy continuity errors, I'm not going to go from wearing this to suddenly having a Hawaiian shirt on for, no reason. Except for right now. Anyways, that's the introduction. So, where did I put my phone? Welcome to the official audio recording. Now, I say that, I'm going to fuck up some words. I'm going to read things a little bit differently than it will be literally verbatimly written. The reason why is I kind of read ahead and my brain auto-completes. You'll get the basic gist. I'm only going to mess up a few words and mix things up a little bit. Maybe if the mix-up is in character, it won't matter. So, who knows? But hey, that's it. And, welcome to the introduction. Not even chapter 1 right away. No, we're going into the brief introduction. Hello, listener. I am the author of this strange tale. I wanted to give you a few details right out of the gate for how this story works, as it is a little different from some of the other stories on Wattpad. Firstly, the story takes place in a D&D inspired world. What does that mean? Well, for one, it means that you can expect monsters and magic and demons and devils, all sorts of spooky critters, and unique rules that govern the world. Secondly, it means that the main character, is a real D&D character with a real character sheet. All that means is that he has a set number of skills, items, and abilities that can influence the story. In addition, I will be rolling for him. Now, you definitely don't need to know anything about D&D to understand how this story works, or understand the story in general. I won't be including the rolls I make for him, but I will be rolling, and that will affect the story. Now, rolling, what I mean by that is if he has, let's say, a 5 in investigation, I'm going to roll a dice numbered from 1 to 20. Let's say I roll a 15, plus his 5 for investigation, and he will have a 20 on investigation, which means that he did a really good job, and he's going to do a good job investigating that scene. That's it. That's all I mean. Now, all you need to know before we move on is what the Inspector looks like and where the story takes place. Inspector Spector is a 3-foot-tall fairy with gray skin, black hair, and purple eyes. He has a set of wings that move so fast you can barely see them, and they have sort of the coloration of dragonfly wings. He is a house that exists simultaneously in every major realm of existence. What is a realm? Think of it like a planet. Some realms are as big as a universe, some are as small as Earth. But no matter what, they each have their own little enclosed ecosystem, and you can't exactly walk from one realm to the other. The setting for this story takes place on the material plane, which is the name of one of the realms, which is basically Earth, but magical and fantasy. Specifically, it takes place in a city known as Omni City, a melting pot of strife and crime, which seldom has crimes that actually interest our inspector. Past that, here are a few basics. Currency is split between 4 coins: copper, silver, gold, and platinum. Copper is what most commoners get paid in, and the coins work in increments of 10, 10 copper is 1 silver, 10 silver is 1 gold, etc. A single gold coin is an average year salary for most commoners. That is everything. I hope you can enjoy the story of murder, blackmail, magic, and a single boomerang. Chapter 1: A Wild Beginning. Locking one's door is one of the simplest things you could do to prevent unwanted guests, and some doors are particularly important to lock. One of these doors is the front door of the one and only Inspector Spector. You see, Mr. Spector has one house/office, technically. He has one house in every realm with societies. The Nine Hells, the Abyss, the Feywilds, the Material Plane, etc. You name it, he has a house there. But they all lead to his one singular home/office. This is why it is so important for him to lock his door, because if he doesn't, he might have a dozen clients waiting for him from very different cultures. No one wants Danthe, the elven accountant who thinks the captain of the guard is stealing text coins, to sit in a lobby with Yog-Sothoth, the knower of 1,000 truths. The inspector was just getting home from an exhausting case. 18 hours straight on the job in a hostile environment where anyone could be the culprit would normally be the craziest case of a detective's life, but for Mr. Spector, it was Tuesday. However, it didn't change how very tired it made him. He was so tired that he barely noticed there were a few arrows still in his back. They didn't pierce the skin due to him wearing chainmail as an undershirt, but the arrows dangled loosely in his coat as a gentle reminder that he was that close to death. Slowly staggering towards one of his doors, he goes for his keys. Upon turning them in the lock, he notices how easily they turn, indicating to him that he did not lock his door on the way out. Damn it, he mutters under his breath to no one in particular. He knows that when the door opens, there will be a client on the other side. Specifically because he doesn't want there to be someone there, it practically guarantees it. Spector put his ear up against the door and could hear someone muttering to themselves. Whoever it was, they seemed to be very nervous and were rehearsing what they were going to say. This was excellent news, because it can make Inspector Spector look like a better detective than he is by walking in and knowing what's happening. This is how most detectives get away with looking like they are geniuses, like that hack fraud Sherlock Groves. Hey, my name is Anthony and I've been framed for murder. No, that's too strong. I need to work my way up to it. Hey there, my name is Anthony. My friends call me Tony, and my enemies call me a snitch. That's way too casual. Oh, why is speaking so hard? The man mumbled to himself. Mr. Spector rolled his eyes so hard they could have popped out. Another murder case. Right after the other one. He hasn't even finished a long rest yet. No sleep and no money is a bad place to be, not to mention his wand of detect magic only recharges at dawn, and thus needs to be in a plane of existence with a dawn to recharge. The lack of money worried him more. The trouble is, he wasn't paid for his last case because the one who was paying him to solve the crime ended up going to jail for the crime he hired Inspector Spector to investigate. He probably imagined his cunning frame job would guarantee his freedom, but alas, he forgot to account for Inspector Spector being an actually good investigator and not a gimmick detective like he probably thought. Inspector Spector was a 3-foot-tall ferryman. Originally born in the Feywilds, he had trouble getting along with the other Fey. Due to being born and conceived in a darker part, he came out with a few quirks. Gray skin and purple eyes tend to stand out amongst the elitist Fey folk. Outcast from normal Fey society, Spector spent his time reading and studying everything he could, and eventually found love after a sea elf was found without much memory of herself, lost and adrift in the Feywilds. It was almost the anniversary of her funeral. Swinging the door open, like a villain making a dramatic entrance, was the very short Spector. Normally he flies 2 feet up, so he hovers at about 5 feet tall. But after 18 hours of the most infuriating case of the week, Mr. Spector was not feeling up to it. Quick question for you, Anthony. Is this something that is time-sensitive, or can I sleep first? Spector walked over to his desk, barely having the energy to get over there. He was about waist level to the 6-foot-tall human in his lobby, and he could care less what this 20-something had to say. his bed beckoning him from the other room, soft and spacious, with sheets made from spider silk. He can only hope Anthony was about to tell him that he could sleep, but it was not to be. "I'm sorry, sir, but it is quite time-sensitive. I've been framed for a murder, and we don't have much time until Detective Mango arrives to arrest me. When I got here, I only had a few hours left, but without a clock, I don't know how much time has passed since I arrived. I could only have an hour left. Please, you've got to help me." Anthony fiddled with his hands, and tiny sparks of energy escaped them. Spector noticed several things immediately. Firstly, he noticed that Anthony was lying. He wasn't sure what about, though. Either it isn't time-sensitive, or he hasn't been framed for murder. There's always the possibility it's some other third thing, but Spector couldn't for the life of him imagine what it could be given his lack of sleep. Regardless, unless he got paid at least a gold, Spector wasn't going to get hired by another liar. Not twice in a row. The second thing he noticed was the sparkles of pure energy escaping his hands. Now this means one of two things in Spector's experience. Either this kid was a sorcerer, or he was being possessed. Due to the lack of his head spinning 360 degrees, or cursing at him in Abyssal, it was most likely not a possession. He could always throw salt at him to rule it out, but who just has a pocket of salt with them at all times? Due to the lack of evidence pointing towards one or the other, Spector decided to look at the factors surrounding the burst of energy to reach his conclusion. Literally nothing was happening other than him getting a little worked up. If the magic sparks against his will, and while he gets emotional, that leads Spector to one conclusion. "Few questions right out of the gate, Anthony. First things first, how long have you been a wild magic sorcerer?" The look of shock on Anthony's face told Spector that he was correct. If he was more awake, he'd probably have a smug look on his face right about now. But instead, he had an unemotive, blank look on his face. Anthony didn't know what to say. He probably wasn't even going to mention that he was a wild magic sorcerer until after Spector took the case to prevent from scaring him off. Shuffling awkwardly in his poorly fitting shoes, he mumbled a barely audible sentence. Spector leaned in to hear what was being mumbled, but the only thing he could hear was the smacking of the kid's lips together as he tried to form words. "Speak up, kid. If it's as time-sensitive as you say, we hardly have time to waste on you muttering nonsense to yourself." Anthony seemed to gather up whatever muster he had and spoke with a loud voice that shook Spector's head a little bit. "I've known about it for 4 years," Anthony shouted. Spector thought to himself, this kid is either one extreme or the other. Either too quiet or too loud. Let's hope he's innocent, because arresting a wild magic sorcerer who doesn't even know how to control his voice, let alone his powers, would be a major pain in the ass. "Second question. How much are you paying me to solve this case?" Spector asked, tactfully ignoring the stack of bills from the multi-dimensional housing committee that keeps his home from splitting into the void between the 9 realms. He probably owed them 7 gold by now. In addition, with rent being a steep 1 gold per month, it's a miracle they haven't just plunged his home into the void after 3 months. But this company doesn't exactly need the money, so maybe he's just a low priority. "I'd be paying you 10 gold, sir, my entire month's allowance." Damn rich kids. And their month's salary being 10 times that of the yearly salary of an average blacksmith. But hey, rich means this is probably going to be really easy. They typically have a begrudging butler that does these kinds of murders, so it shouldn't take too long to solve this one. Though it is a little strange how a rich kid is wearing shoes that are too big for him. "Well, hey, for 10 gold I'll see what I can do. Half now, half later. What did the victim die of?" Spector asked, taking off his coat and putting on an identical coat with less arrows in it. "Well, that's the thing. He died of death." It's never going to be simple, is it? And that's it so far. Hope you enjoyed the teaser. I know I said that I wasn't going to continuously change shirts, but that's actually a lie, because I thought I was going to be able to record all of them at the same time, and that was not the case. My voice hurty after just 2, because I had to do that first chapter like 6 times, dude. But regardless, my neck hurt. Not neck. My voice. Shit. Bye.